Okay, so first what need to do, first we have to create a one command. Okay, so how we can do that? Just create a class. Okay, make it name is a create blog command. Okay, and make it public. Okay, and similar what we have done in last session. Simple, we have to inject I request and then whatever our response. Okay, so whatever our response about that block view model. Okay, so here we can just pass it to block view, but as per that normally we have written in create command obviously just integer like one whatever generated id. Okay, so be up to you like what you want to return. Okay, so you can just pass simply integer or you can just pass simply string whatever things. Okay, but in this demonstration I'll just complete returning to the that block model. And in this, what is that our view block model? Just id, name, description, author. Okay, so it is simple. And what is the request parameter we'll get from the UI? Okay, that from UI for that for insert of that that blog, what need to required, we require this name. For that user will send user will send to the name what is the blog name, what is the description of that blog, what is the author name, and what is that image URL. Okay, and that actually that block model you can go to here. See, the view model is already there, so same things. Okay, so I think here is a name, description, or author, so we can keep it to same name, description, or author. We can remove that image property. Okay, so that's it. The create command is created. Okay, now we have to create one handler. Okay, so that whatever command they can proceed via handler. Okay, so let me copy this name, create block command, and right click on that, create a class, and just paste it to over here and just adding to handler. Okay, create block command handler. Okay, make it to public. Okay, now again what need to do, similar thing we have to do. I request handler, we have to inject I request handler. Okay, and here we have to pass same things again like this two overload method. One is request and what is the response. Okay, so what is our request? Our request is this create block command. So just pass it to create block command and just pass it to also response what we have you know what we have to return back to response. So our response would be like similar block view model. Okay, and similar again we have to implement that things. Okay, so implement interface. Okay, so now it is creating handle method, and now we have to handle whatever our you know the business logic over here. Okay, how we can do that? Simply we have to create a constructor. Okay, CQR, and then finally we have to inject that our domain repository. So where is our domain repository repository? See, iBlog repository. So call it to here. If you don't know about how we can what we are doing here, so definitely I'm recommend go to my previous session or from that project setup. So definitely you can understand like why I create that inside the domain I repository or something. Okay, so that is done. And then what need to do, we have to assign a private property and then assign in this constructor. Okay, that is a inject. You have to inject that in iBlock repository. So I did that, and then we have to call to our method. Okay, so what is our method to create a block? So this is that method, create async. Okay, and in this create async, what is expecting? This is expecting, see, domain entity block. Okay, but here, see what is the entity? It is a different entity, so it will not expect it actually. So what need to do? We have to convert. So this is that way, like we can convert like imapper, or we can directly just change it to that things like this way. Like suppose for example, where, and just store that entity, blog entity, okay, and then new, what is that entity? It is a blog entity, okay, and this blog entity, just pass it to our parameter, okay. Like for example, what we are getting, okay, we have as a name property, so we have to assign from that request that name, okay. Similar that description, so in this description also request dot description, and let me remove that, okay, so that we are able to see that, okay. Then author, and author also like that request dot author, okay. We are not passing id because id will generate automatically. So this on entity is created with this blog domain entity, so just pass it to here, okay. And then this is a async method, so definitely we have to use that await async, okay. And finally, so in this method, see in this method actually repository is returning is domain entity, okay. So again, in this domain entity, what need to do? We have to convert to our view model in this model, okay. So similar things we have to just store over here, like created or result. You can just post up the result, store as a variable as a result, okay. And then finally, what need to do? We can just map it to we have to use that mapping, okay. So how we can do that? It is very simple. imapper, imapper to mapper, okay, which is already I implement. If you don't know, so please watch my previous session, okay. And just create a private field and assign to in this here inject in the constructor level, okay. And then call it to here imapper dot map, okay. And what is that destination? Destination would be our blog view model. And what is the source? Source, it is our result, okay. And finally, just return as a return, okay. See, just formatting, okay. So this is done, okay. So this is sufficient for this that create blog. But yeah, one more thing we'll implement in later, okay, not here. Yeah, so that validation part, okay. See, whatever request we are getting from UI, we are not validating, we are directly actually might be, could be could be that could be that command. So this is our command, so might be could be user send this command is as a null or empty, something like that, okay. So that we will create some some common, we will implement some common logic, okay. And that will actually will you we need to use for that fluent API package, okay. So that package will help to validate our entity whatever user is sending. So we can prevent, okay, if it is user name sending is empty or something, or whatever validation we require, so we can set via that fluent API. So that will do in later, okay. First we'll just cover everything like create, delete, update, then finally we'll show you how can validate with the fluent API. So that will do in the upcoming session, okay. So till now it is fine, so let me build so that we can make sure everything is working fine, okay. So now see, build is succeed, and also it is running perfectly, okay. So that is done for that create blog implementation, okay. And later on the next video will actually implement that update part, okay. Started to update query, okay. So what need to do? First we have to create one command similar what we have achieved in so far last session, Okay, so simple, what need to create, that is a update blog command. Okay, and then in this update command blog, just make it public, and inject is simple like that, similar I request handler. And what is the response type, because it is update, so definitely once update we'll need to get just you know that ID. Okay, based on this ID, okay, it is updated or not, so just return as an integer, like whatever updated property, updated ID. Okay, so we can return it over here. And okay, now what is the response type? Okay, so means request type, like whatever request we are getting from that user, so that we have to pass over here. Okay, so where we'll get that, that should be up to yes per your uh, requirement. But yeah, in this here actually we use one blog view model. Okay, so where is I created that one, I created I think somewhere in here. Okay, yeah, see the blog view model. So I can, this property we have to get from UI, so that I can update those property in our database. Okay, so create those property. Okay, so in update command, what we'll get from the user ID, name, description, author, same things we have to update in our DB. Okay, so that is done, command is created. And now what need to do, we have to create a handler, update command handler. So how we can do that, create a class, just put some name like update block command handler. Okay, and make it to public, similar fashion. And now again need to inject I request handler, I request I request handler. Okay, it is getting from this mediator R. And also the here we have to pass two overload method. Okay, one is request, one is response. Okay, so what is our request, same things, like our request is update block command, which is just we have created. Okay, and then what is the response, we have to back, we have to return back our integer. Okay, so let me return the integer only. Okay, and then what need to do, actually this request handler actually complaining. Okay, need to implement their signature. Okay, so what is the signature, just implement interface, so this is our signature, need to implement handle. Okay, and how we can do that, we have to call our repository where actually we have to send our data. Okay, so create a constructor for that, so that we can inject our I repository, this I blog repository. Okay, so let me inject and create a variable, and also assign, create a private variable and assign to in the constructor level. Okay, so that is done. Now we have to call our repository method, which will update our blog entity. Okay, so how we can do that, just blog repository update async. And in this update async, actually see there's a two things actually we need to pass. Let me zoom in. Okay, it is okay, let me zoom in. Okay, see, uh first parameter is an ID, and second one is a domain entity. Okay, so that two things we have to pass. Okay, so first ID will get from that request ID. Request ID is our blog ID. Okay, and then another one is, see, the another one is a domain entity. Okay, so domain entity, how we can pass it, like simply new, or we can just create this entity and separately then we can pass it over here, like for example update blog entity. Okay, and just create a that domain blog entity. okay, and just pass it to whatever our parameter over here, request id to request id, author to author, and description to description, and name is to name. Okay, and id author name. Okay, yeah, that is fine, that is sufficient. And finally just copy this one and pass it to here. Okay, and what is the return type of this method? This is return type of this method integer, so make it to also this response our return type is this method, handler method is a integer, so just simply return with the await, okay, and async. That is done. Okay, so let me build so that we can make sure is nothing we have missed over here. Okay, so build is completed. Okay, so that implementation also done. So just recap what we have done, okay, because this is very important. Simply first what need to do, you have to create a update command, okay, and then inject to iRequest handler, iRequest interface, okay, which is getting from the mediator R, okay, and we have to pass that whatever response. So in this scenario, our update scenario, we get the response in the integer. Okay, and how we can decide, okay, what is the response we are getting? Okay, so whatever implementation you have done in the domain, okay, not a domain, actually just whatever your repository method, like that time we can decide it, okay, what kind of response we have to return, okay, that method. So same things, okay, we can just pass it over here, and then we have to once complete your command update block model command, then we have to create a handler, okay, and thus that handler again we have to inject that iRequest handler, and iRequest handler also getting this expected this two method, to overload method and a request and response, and that request is our update command block, and response is whatever return type. Okay, based on this actually we create a you know um, implementation method in this iRequest handler. Okay, and here we will put our business logic. Okay, and then call to our repository method, so that whatever interact in database, this will do in this abstraction iRepository. Okay, and that get back the response over here, and then get back to UI. Okay, so that is done. Okay, and the next section will implement in this application layer the delete block. Okay, let's get started. Okay, so what need to do first, we have to create that delete command. Okay, so let me create a class. Okay, we can put a name as it is delete blog command. Okay, and similar what we have done in last session, we have to do same things, because delete also similar to, not similar to update, but yeah, response type is the same. So we'll call that iRequest interface, and then response type would be a integer. Okay, and what is the request parameter would be in this delete command, that we would be in a id. Okay, so based on this id, like suppose I want to delete a block 5 5 which is I contain id 5. Okay, so that we have to getting from UI, so that command we have to specify that parameter. Okay, so that is done. Okay, after that what need to do, we have to create a handler class. Okay, just create a handler like similar delete blog command handler. Okay, make it to public, and similar fashion we have to do iRequest handler, and in this iRequest handler we have to pass the query that request, that is a delete block command, okay, and then response is integer. Okay, we have to try to implement that method as well, a request handler. Okay, so now we have to implement here like our business logic. Okay, so how we can do that? Simply create the constructor. Okay, just inject your abstraction layer repository. Name is iblock repository. Okay, create a variable, assign that variable at a private field and inject in the constructor level. That is done. Okay, so far we have did. Okay, and now just call it to here, that iblock repository, that delete method, and delete method expected is id. Okay, so where is our id? We can get id from that command request.id. Okay, and what is the response type of this method? It is an integer, so just uh, store as an integer, or yeah, no, we don't require to store as an integer because just it is also response type of integer. So definitely just put that await async, because this is a async method, so also just pass it a return type. Okay, that's it. So delete command also implementation done. Okay, so just recap what we have done. Simply we have to create a command. Okay, delete command, and the delete command we have to pass, okay, what is the response type? So response type would be as our integer, and what is the request parameter? That request parameter is the id. Okay, so we have to pass over here, and then we have to create a handler. So in this handler we have to specify whatever command we just created. Okay, so that mention that as a request, and response would be a integer. Okay, based on this request handler we have to implement that handle method. Okay, and in this handler method we have to inject, we have to call actually our domain layer abstraction repository. Okay, which will contain actually that delete data from this repo, from the entity or in the database. Okay, and once it's completed, it's returned back to our id. Okay, that's simple. Let me build so that we can make sure everything is looks good. Okay, so as of now it looks good. Okay, so now see, in the application layer, you know we have complete the implementation of application layer. Okay, so we have complete command, we have complete the query, we have also complete mapping, but yeah, we have to need to do something for the validation, but yeah, that will do in the later. Okay, and because that is not a part over here, but yeah, that is a something different which is required. Yeah, definitely we do that in our upcoming session. Okay, so far we are good, and now in the next session we'll implement actually infrastructure layer. Okay, so how we can implement an infrastructure layer. Okay, so till now, thank you, have a nice day, and please don't forget to subscribe.